G'day folks, welcome back to Pete's Investing. It's the 28th of April 2024. This is the update for the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, Japanese Nikkei, the German DAX and the VIX. You can see there the US markets, the S&P and the Nasdaq have risen slightly since our last update, and the DAX and the Nikkei have pretty much moved sideways. Notice also the VIX has dropped off as well. Here's our heat map, and again in terms of trends, you can see there on the bottom left the VIX, all of them are trending long on the monthly, predominantly short on the weekly with the exception of the VIX and the German DAX, and you can see they're predominantly undecided or neutral on pretty much all of them. First looking at the VIX, we don't have any indicator on the monthly, but on the weekly you can see there it's broken up above its moving average band on the CCI. They had a nice big bearish candle and it's approaching that moving average band, so careful about this one going long. On the daily, it's actually broken through that moving average band quite significantly, and we've been in a downtrend for the last few days now. If we go to the other charts, the daily here is a reference, but also the hourly with a bit more detail. You can see there we had a bearish divergence versus the price, higher highs on the price. And in this case, using that Fibonacci range, it actually broke down well past our 38% level and broke down past the 61%. But notice at the moment as well, we've got a bullish divergence versus lower lows on the price, and we may see a bit of a retrace to the upside in the short term. The S&P on the monthly is still showing a bullish trend, although we do have a bearish divergence, and that's been that way and maybe just started playing out at the moment. If I go back historically, you can see there was a slightly lower point there on the CCI versus that point there. And that was indicating a retrace during those years. That went for a long time and eventually did break down slightly. So just be aware of divergence on all time frames. On the weekly, we did also have a couple of, you can see there, a couple of bearish divergence in those periods. Lower highs on the CCI versus higher highs on the price. And that one was a pretty significant drop during COVID. Then more recently, we've got this new bearish divergence, almost like a double top versus higher highs on the price. And on the daily, we did have this bearish, and it's still in play, it looks like it, a bearish divergence, but it's broken down, and that's actually broken down, if I draw a Fibonacci between that low and that high, it may have already completed its retrace. You can see that it broke below the 23 to the 38% level. Almost went as far as a 31%, and it's bounced up from there. So it may have already done that retrace, and this bearish divergence may have already played out. But again, I'd like to see the weekly break higher to confirm that. At the moment, the weekly is still bearish, so just be careful about getting too aggressive and going long at the moment, even though the daily is showing long positions. If we go to the daily and the hourly chart, I've got the daily here as a reference, but you can see here on the hourly, there's a lot more divergence on the lower time frames. We had a few little bullish divergence here, and each of those bounced up to the 38% level and hit our target. And you can see there, this is the last one, bullish divergence up to that high there, and it broke actually higher than the 61%. So that's actually a bullish move. Of course, there's no guarantee it's going to continue up, but as you can see there, we've got a bearish divergence currently in play versus higher highs on the price, and that may actually break down and hit our somewhere in that area there at the very minimum. So just be careful about going long. We've got a bearish divergence currently in play. The German DAX similarly has a monthly breakout above the CCI and the moving average band. Also notice there's a bearish divergence on the monthly. On the weekly, it's neutral. It's within that band, so undecided yet. And also notice we've got a bearish divergence on the German DAX. We've had a couple of them. The first one broke down, hit its target, and the second one is still in play. And lastly, on the daily chart here, you've got a bearish divergence still in play. Now, this may have already completed its retrace. You can see there it broke down, hit the 38% target level with that big wick on that day, and it's bounced up from there. So just be careful. Don't get too aggressive. Again, I'd like to see the weekly break higher and invalidate this bearish divergence on the weekly. Going to the daily and the hourly chart in more detail. I've got the daily here as a reference. You can see there the CCI is currently moving in line with the price. There's no divergence currently in play. Again, we did have a few bullish divergence back here, and they each retraced to hit those little target areas. Likewise, the Nikkei is bullish on the monthly, it's bearish on the weekly, and still bearish on the daily. There was no divergence to talk of back here on the monthly. There still is, or maybe, yeah, that's still in play. Let me just turn that. You can see there's a bearish divergence on the weekly versus the price, and I've drawn a target area here between the 23-38% level, and we still may have a way to go for this to break lower. You can see there the weekly is showing a short positioning on the CCI as well. On the daily, that's already hit its retrace based on that little bearish divergence, but notice the CCI is still trending down, even though it's broken into the moving average band, and that's actually broken down and touched the 38% retracement level of that Fibonacci range. Now, has it completed the retrace, or is it more to go? But again, so long as the weekly is still in a downtrend and the daily, I would consider this more of a shorting positioning. Going to the daily as a reference here, and the hourly, again, you can see there we had a few bullish divergence, and more recently the price is moving in line with the CCI, so there's no divergence. But notice the price is still struggling to break higher highs. It's about equal to where it was in our last video, even though the CCI is making a few movements to the upside. But notice again on the daily it's still declining, so just be careful about going long. Again, I'd like to see the weekly break higher into a more bullish CCI. Lastly, we've got the Nasdaq. Now here we've got a bullish movement on the monthly, but notice there's a bearish divergence, and it looks like it's starting to move to the downside, so just be careful. On the weekly, we're bearish, but also a bearish divergence. You can see there higher highs in the price, lower highs in the CCI. And on the daily, likewise, CCI is still declining. The daily retraces already hit its target area, went as low as a 50% retracement level. So again, just be careful about going long until I'd like to see the weekly break higher on the CCI before taking long positions on the daily. If I go to the daily and the hourly, again, we had a bullish divergence here versus lower lows on the price. The price retraced and went it's actually gone just shy of the 61% level, and it's still rising, but notice it's starting to weaken. It's hit this resistance at 17,762, and we may see further decline, so just be careful. Again, I'd like to see the weekly and the daily break higher on the CCI and avoid and invalidate this divergence if I was to go long. I wouldn't be going long on any of the markets at the moment. To support us more, go to the Patreon page where we look at weekly scans of bullish shares. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.